Okay, this is part 2 of our special right triangles lesson 8-3. Now we're going to focus on 30, 60, 90 degree triangles. In the last video, part 1, we worked on 45, 45, 90 triangles. Okay, so the relationship is similar. It has a relationship between the length of the sides, but now the angles are different, so the relationship's going to be different, right? So here we've got a triangle. It's a bad picture I drew. Okay, let's zoom in a little bit. This is a 30, 60, 90 degree triangle. So one of the angles is larger at 60 degrees. One of the angles is super small at 30 degrees. And then the third angle is 90 degrees. So that makes this a right triangle. Okay, so now I've got, instead of the two legs being the same length, like a 45, 45, 90, now I've got a short leg and a long leg. So I'm going to highlight the short leg and make it pink. I'm going to highlight the long leg and make it orange. And I'm going to highlight the hypotenuse and make it yellow. And then we can kind of more easily see the relationship here. So our main focus is based around the short leg. This is the most important. That's our starting point. Okay? To find the hypotenuse, I'm just going to double whatever the short leg is. So the hypotenuse, the length of the hypotenuse is just 2 times whatever the short leg is. Okay? The long leg is the short leg times the square root of 3. That's it. So as long as you know what the short leg is, you just double it to get the hypotenuse, or you multiply it by the square root of 3 to get the long guy. If you know what this guy is and you want to find the hypotenuse, you need to first find the short leg. So you would divide by the square root of 3. And whatever you get, then you can double that to get the hypotenuse. So the short leg is double the hypotenuse. The short leg times the square root of 3 equals the long leg. And that's a 30, 60, 90. I tried to draw it out here and I did a really bad job of drawing a 30, 60, 90. Short leg is x. Hypotenuse is double x, 2x. And the long leg is the short leg times the square root of 3. All right, so let's do a couple practice problems here with this. All right, so I've got my short leg, my long leg, and my hypotenuse, and everything's based off the short leg. I'm gonna go ahead and highlight all these short legs with a pink marker so you know what it is. And short leg, short. There, that should help. All right, for this short leg, it says it's 1/2. That's kind of hard to read, but it's 1/2. Okay, so to get the hypotenuse, I just doubled that. So what's 1/2 times 2? 1/2 plus 1/2 is 1 whole. So x equals 1/2 times 2, which is 2 over 2, which is 1. Okay, so my hypotenuse is 1. And then if I know the short leg is 1/2, I just multiply that times square root of 3. So y equals 1/2 times square root of 3, which gives me square root of 3 over 2 when I multiply that together. Okay, so my long leg, square root of 3 over 2, my short leg, 1/2, and my hypotenuse is just double the short leg, so it's 1. Number 2. Got my short leg here, that's what everything's based off of. My hypotenuse is always the longest side, it's across from the 90 degree angle, and it's double the short leg. So 8 times 2 equals 16. Y equals 16. And then the long leg, this guy, is just the short leg times the square root of 3. So 8 times square root of 3. Done. We found all 3 sides. Here we go. Short leg. So I doubled the short leg to get the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is always the longest side. Okay, so what if I went backwards? This times 2 equals 11. So 11 divided by 2 equals x, right? And 11 divided by 2 is 5.5. So the short leg is 5.5. And if I multiply that times the square root of 3, 5.5 times square root of 3, I get 5 and square root of 3 over 2. Okay, so now I've got all three sides. I've got the short side, 5.5, double that, I get the hypotenuse, 11. Take the short side, multiply it by the square root of 3, and I get the long side. Number 4. Okay, I've got my short leg here, double it, I get my hypotenuse. Well, that doesn't help me yet, I have no numbers. Short leg times the square root of 3 equals the long leg. Okay, so if I wanted to go backwards, I have to divide by the square root of 3. And if I do that, these cancel, and I'm left with 9. So my leg, x, equals 9. And then to find the hypotenuse, it's just double the short leg. So 9 times, oops, I don't know why I wrote 19. 9 times 2 equals 18. The short leg, or the hypotenuse is 18. Short leg is 9. The long leg is 9 times the square root of 3. Number 5. I've got my short leg, my hypotenuse, and my long leg. I don't know what the hypotenuse is, I don't know what the short leg is, but I know the long leg is 12. So if I work backwards and I divide 12 by the square root of 3, that's going to give me my short leg, because I had started with the short leg and multiplied by square root of 3 to get this. Okay, I can't leave a radical on the bottom, so I'm going to multiply it by itself. And I got to do the same thing to the top. So that gives me 12 square root of 3 over 3. And 12 divided by 3 is 4. So that's 4 square root of 3. So the short leg here is 4 square root of 3. And then to get the hypotenuse, I just double the short leg. So 4 times the square root of 3 times 2 gives us 8 square root of 3. Just double this, and I get this. Okay, last one, number 6. I've got my short leg. If I double it, I get my hypotenuse. So if I go backwards, I'm going to divide this by 2 to get my short leg. 20 divided by 2 equals 10. So my short leg equals 10. And then, of course, to get the long leg, I take the short leg and multiply by the square root of 3. 10 square root of 3. Done. Easy peasy, right? 2 problems here on the bottom, and then we're done with this whole entire lesson on special right triangles. Number 7, an equilateral triangle has an altitude length of 36 feet. Determine the length of a side of the triangle. So I have to draw a picture here so you get an idea of what they're talking about. Okay, equilateral triangle has 3 equal sides and 3 equal angles, right? If all the sides are equal and all the angles are equal, that means each angle is 60 degrees. Okay, and then it says in altitude. Remember, an altitude starts at the highest point of a triangle and is perpendicular to the base at the bottom. So it forms a 90 degree, right? It also bisects this top angle here. So if this was 60, what's 60 divided by 2? 30 and 30. So this angle becomes 30 degrees, and this angle becomes 30 degrees. So look what we have, a 30, 60, 90 degree angle. 2 of them, actually. So we're looking for one of the length of the sides of this original triangle. So I'm looking for this guy, or this guy, or this guy, the length of any one of those pink sides. Okay, the only thing I know for sure is that this altitude right here is 36. So if I just kind of ignore one of my triangles, that altitude is really the long leg, right? And I know the long leg came from the short leg times the square root of 3. So if I divide the long leg by the square root of 3, that'll give me the short leg. Okay, once I have the short leg, I can multiply it by 2 to get the hypotenuse, and that's what I want, the entire length of one side of my triangle. I don't want just half the length, I want the whole thing. Okay, so I'm going to start with this long leg, 36, divide by the square root of 3 to get the short leg, because remember, you start with the short leg, multiply by the square root of 3 to get this guy. All right, 36 divided by square root of 3, And then I can't leave a radical in the bottom, so I multiply the bottom by that, the top by that. 36 square root of 3 over 3. And 36 divided by 3 is 12. So 12 square root of 3 is just one short leg. So just one of these is 12 square root of 3. And then, of course, to get the hypotenuse, if this is 12 square root of 3, then I know this is 12 square root of 3. And I also know if I double the short leg, I get the hypotenuse. So 12 square root of 3 times 2 gives me 24 square root of 3. All the problem asked me for was to find the length of one side of the original equilateral triangle. This side is 24 square root of 3. This entire side is 12 square root of 3 plus 12 square root of 3, which is 24 square root of 3. And this side would be the same as well. So the answer is 24 square root of 3. And you can draw a picture like that for me. If I can understand where you're coming from, what you did, don't skip steps. But I'll take a picture if you don't want to just show all the work, as long as it explains how you get your answer. Okay, and then number 8, find the length of the side of an equilateral triangle that has an altitude length of 45. We're literally doing the exact same thing, but instead of 36, now it has 45. So I'll draw one here. Looks something like this. It's supposed to all be the same altitude. This is 45 now. Okay, and this is 60. This is 30. This long leg is 45. If I divide that by square root of 3, I get the short leg. Oops. So long leg divided by square root of 3 gives me the short leg. I got to get rid of that radical in the bottom. 45 times square root of 3 divided by 3. And 45 divided by 3 is 15. So sorry, I didn't realize you can see that. So if the long side here, the altitude is 45, then the short leg is 15 square root of 3. And then if I double that, I get the hypotenuse. So 15 square root of 3 times 2 gives me 30 square root of 3. And it said, find the length of the side of an equilateral triangle. This is one whole side of the triangle. So this is what we wanted to find, 30 square root of 3. So somewhere, make sure I understand that that's your answer. All right, cool. So again, with 30, 60, 90, we've got a 90-degree triangle that has one angle at 60 degrees, one angle that's 30 degrees. It has a short leg, a long leg, and a hypotenuse. You always start with the short leg. That's the most important piece. Double it to get the hypotenuse. If this is x, then this is just 2x. Take the short leg and multiply by the square root of 3 to get the long leg. And if you're going backwards, just undo that. So whatever the long leg is, just divide it by the square root of 3 and you'll get the short leg. Whatever the hypotenuse is, divide it by 2 and you'll get the short leg. Okay, let me know if you have questions.